Yes, guys. Happy Tuesday. It's your boy Si, aka the Mancunian. Welcome to another Gunner Talk. Just want to say, guys, again, keep subscribing, keep liking, keep throwing your questions in on here. And if you see any of my stuff on Twitter, please retweet it regarding this. I've got a couple of goals I've set myself, which is I want to hit 75 subs, currently in the mid-50s at the minute on here. And I want to hit 1,500 followers on Twitter, which I'm 50 or 60 away from at the minute, before the season starts. So please, guys, help me achieve those goals, because the more people get involved, the better range of questions we get, the different opinions and questions we get from a wider base of fans, and then it makes this show a lot more interesting. That's where I'm at with that. So thank you so much, guys, for your support, and please keep it up. The next one, if any of you guys know somebody who's good with visuals, that can help me out with my stuff and my channel, maybe some intro music or something, I don't know, but if you know somebody, please drop me a message, because I need help. I am a real technophobe and a dinosaur when it comes to computer stuff and technical stuff. I'm much more of a, give me a hammer and a saw and I'll build you an ark, but you give me a computer and I'll blow it up within inside 5 minutes. So please, guys, if you know somebody, get them in touch with me, because I'd like to upgrade things a little bit. It's very amateur hour at the moment, so I'd like to get that sorted before the season starts. If you know somebody, so please put your suggestions forward. And let's crack on. Obviously, my last Gunner Talk was just basically a catch-up one, because I've been away for a week. So this week I'm going to go back to just answering your guys' questions again. So let's on with it. First one. Have we got another new signing? Wait a minute, guys.
Willie Saliba, Liba, Willie Saliba.
Willie Saliba, Liba, Willie Saliba. Come on! Willie Saliba. That's his chant, by the way. That's what I'll be going. What was that song? That follow the leader, leader, follow the leader. That's what I'll be going with. Willie Saliba, Liba, Willie Saliba. Hey, Willie Saliba, Liba, Willie Saliba. There you go, Jack and the Clock End, boys. There's one for you from my back catalogue of stunning chants. Yeah, it's exciting stuff, guys. It's exciting stuff. I'm sure some of you, your enthusiasm's been tempered by the fact he's not coming straight to the club. And I've seen a lot of you talking quite down in the mouth about it, and I'm not sure why. You look at Raul's comments of, we need to start outsmarting the market. And to me, this is outsmarting the market. I don't have a problem with it. I've seen people saying, what the fuck are we loaning him back for? We need a centre-back right now. Yeah, but guys, this is what my problem with the club has been with a lot of his no forward planning. Yes, we need a centre-back right now, but we also need somebody to replace the centre-backs we've got. And that's not just this window. Socrates is getting on a bit. Koscielny's at that age now where, whether he just... I get the feeling he's going to stay this year, and then his contract ends and he goes wherever he wants next year. Mustafi, obviously most of us want rid. They're the three main ones that have got to go. And then you look behind that and we've got maybe Beilik, Beilik, Holding and Mavropanos. So we do need a couple more bodies in there, definitely. But I just don't understand the negativity towards it. The only way this deal can happen, I told you guys this months ago about this deal, is that term of he gets loaned back there is non-negotiable. So that's the only way we made this deal happen. And I like the fact we've sort of gone, okay, this is a guy we want. He could be the next VVD. And I said, I'm going to talk a while back that he is at the same level as Beilik for me. It's just that he hasn't had the same exposure because he doesn't play for as big a club, and he hasn't been in the limelight as much. With Ajax going so deep in the Champions League, it's impossible. And the Barca rumours, it's impossible to not take notice of Beilik. Where Saliba is totally flying under the radar. So I think we've done really well to sort of jump straight in there really quickly before anybody sort of got sniff of it and wrapped it up. Before he does become worth double next year. So I'm all for it. And I'm more happy that he's going back there on loan than I would be if he was coming straight to the club. Because I think for a lot of you, you can't separate the fact that you're so desperate for a centre-back, you think he's the solution, and I don't believe he would be this year, because I just don't think he'd be up to it. Expecting how many games you guys would want him to play sort of pretty much week in, week out, you know, and then you probably rate Holding as our next best centre-back. Do you think Saliba and Holding, putting them together, you know, considering Holding's just coming back from a really bad injury, I'm sure there might be some, you know, the same as Hector, there's going to be some complications with that one. I don't think it'll be purely smooth sailing. To suggest that we'll go through a season really well and unscathed, just those two as our main centre-back pair, it just asks for disaster. It just screams disaster to me. So I'm more for the fact that he's getting loaned back. And like I say, it's great the way that I feel that, because it was non-negotiable that he got loaned back, and you know, they made it pretty clear that he wanted to stay there for another year and keep progressing, and that if we weren't up for it, they've got plenty of people that would jump for that chance. He's not somebody that they're struggling to shift if, you know, they're up to the idea of getting rid. So this is the only way we can make it happen, and I like the fact that we seem to have used that to our advantage to go, alright, if you're adamant that he's staying for another year on loan, okay, but then we're adamant that we pay you next to nothing up front, and that's exactly how it looks like. You know, talk of 27.5 million for this, but it looks like we're not paying anything up front, or you know, a very nominal fee just to keep them happy and feel like they've won. You know, so I'm delighted with it. And like I say, a lot of you guys, you just want a centre back, so you will accept anything that you think will probably be better than Mustafi and cosplaying week in and week out. But I'm not. As much as I think this guy could be a world beater, right at this minute, I don't think you'd get an instant improvement. That's just my opinion, obviously. But I much prefer the fact that he'll be out of the limelight, staying at a club where he's already, you know, he's got to the point he's at. People are talking about him as a future worldly centre-back, being at Saint Etienne. So what's the problem with him staying there another year and continuing on the trajectory he's on? I have no issue with that. And I think he'd be very much like Guendouzi last year, where, you know, he came from French League 2, 18-year-old, and I told you guys before the season started, what I was scared about is that we were going to lean on him too much, because our other options in midfield were poor. And we'd put him in sink or swim situations, and the minute he sank, which was inevitable because of his lack of experience, the way he plays and how much he wants the ball, he is going to, you know, if you ask for the ball 100 times, there is going to be 10 of them where you end up losing it. That's just the game. You know, Xhaka does that, and he's a much more senior, experienced pro. So it was always going to go like that at some point. When he got fatigued, we made him play 30 or 40 games, whatever it was last year, and he started to wilt a little bit under the pressure. For me, and through fitness, he tailed off, and then people really got on at him. And I even saw some people at the end of the season sort of suggesting just sell Guendouzi. He doesn't look like he might ever be quite up to it, or the type of player we want. And if we could sort of get 30 or 40 million now, let him go. And I think you'd do, as much as you say you wouldn't, I think you'd end up doing the same with Saliba. That's just how I feel on it, guys. I think that's exactly what you do, because a lot of you are very, I don't like saying it, but bipolar in the way your mind works. You're very Jekyll and Hyde, and you say one thing one day and then complete 360 the next. So I'm more than happy for him to stay there, where he'd be under a lot less pressure and can just continue his natural growth. Because I do feel that if he came to us and we leaned on him this year, he would have a red card in him, or giving away a penalty, or losing the ball, got caught napping, or a bad back pass or whatever, and give a goal away at maybe a crucial point, and you would all hammer him for it. There's no two ways about that. So no, I'm more than happy for him to go there. I think this is an absolutely fabulous deal, and you should all get on board with it. Like I say, when Koscielny, if he is staying this year, his contract runs out next year, we're not flapping going through this same process again. And that's what I want to stop, is this year where we'll actually be going, well, it doesn't matter now that our most experienced centre-back's leaving, because we've already got a replacement that is now more ready-made than he is this window. So I don't see any downside to it at all. And I've also seen people saying, fucking hell, he's getting loaned back, Emery's a dickhead, get Emery out, what's he doing, what's he playing at? Guys, Emery's on a 2-year contract that he's halfway through. Do you honestly believe he's in control of signing a player that will be coming to the club when he might not even be here? No. And we've already been told the signings are going to be mainly out of his hands. They are going to be whoever comes in as this, whatever role it is, director of finance, football director, whatever the bollocks it is. I forgot what exactly the term was for this guy, but they're going to be mainly in charge. I think Unai will just be saying, look, I need a left back, a centre mid, a right winger, and then these guys will go and identify targets, come back to Unai and say this is what we're looking at, and then it'll be a bit of a conflab, and then they'll go and make it happen. So to suggest this is a reason to get rid of Unai is fucking mind blowing for me, and I don't think he's had any input in this signing at all, really. He might have said, yeah, I'm happy with it, but you know, he might not be here when this kid turns up, so I can't get on board with that one, guys. Next one, Edu. Is he our new, as I've just said, that title, Director of Football, Director of Finance, Technical Director, whatever the bollocks it is? It looks like he is going to be, guys, and it seems that a lot of you think, you know, as soon as the Copa America ended, he was going to be at the club. You know, he's going to sort of chink, you know, champagne glasses, you know, champagne flutes with the rest of the Brazil setup, and he's like, right, sorry guys, you know, sipped up, you know, times are wasted, you know, I'm off to London on the next flight. It's not going to happen like that, guys. The guy's got to relocate his entire life. You know, he's not going to commute from Brazil or wherever. I mean, that's me assuming he lives in Brazil. I would assume he is, seeing as that's been his entire job, is the Brazilian setup. I'd be surprised if he was living in Europe or somewhere, but he has got to relocate his life. I don't know if he's got wife and kids or whatever. I assume he does, you know, schools, living, you know, maybe nannies, whatever it is, all that the background setup. He's got to get all that in place. So I just don't expect to see him at all at the club. You know, I think some of you sort of expected to see him at Colney this morning, which blew my mind. You know, that, you know, with the fact that we're on this US tour now, I wouldn't be shocked if we either leave him out of that as well and let him have a bit of time. You know, his job is something that can be done down the phone, a lot of it, you know, and through contacting people and other people doing the legwork. So I don't think you need to see him instantly at the club for him to already be doing a bit. And another interesting thing is, you're all saying he's the technical director or whatever it is. We've not announced that yet. The rumours come from Brazil that he said his goodbyes there, but we haven't officially announced it. So until we officially announce it, you're not going to see him at the club. So I think you're more likely to see him join up with the rest of them in the US, or he'll be there waiting when they get back, and then they'll get to work. But it seems a lot of you are pinning a lot of hopes on him working some miracles, and I don't think he's going to be a big part of stuff this window. And I'll be drawing assumptions on him and whether he's up to it, because he's not someone that I rate that highly. Obviously, I'm not particularly well informed on him, but you know, he's been at Corinthians and then in the Brazil setup, so his track record, we don't really know. What can you directly associate with his job that he's done really well within that setup? I don't know. So until I see something that you can, you know, definitely say that's him, I don't know how I can say whether it's a good appointment or not. I know a load of you love this idea of ex-players coming back to the club, but it's that nostalgia thing. You know, looking back at when we were really good and going, well, these guys are doing these jobs now, and you know that could help us now in the future. And it's like, well, they were players then. That's not what they are now. You know, you can't say because they were great players they're going to be great at the roles they have now. So I don't know. Do I like the idea of sort of Thierry, Vieira, Bergkamp, Overmars, Freddie, Edu having some sort of trifecta going on at the club of some hierarchy? You know, a mixture of any of those lot. Yeah, I love that idea, but you know, I also love the idea of being in a three-way marriage with Blake Lively and Megan Fox, but that's not likely either. I don't know. Jury's out on that one. It's a real tricky one again. You know, when can we judge him? I think in a you know, by the end of next summer or the summer after that. I don't know how much impact it'll have immediately, and I think you're expecting a lot from the guy straight away when he'll be finding his feet in and around the club. You know, people say, oh well, he knows the club. Does he? Really? Are things the exact same as they were in 2000? You know, early 2000s? No. So yeah, I think you've got to give him some time to find his feet and give the guy a chance. You know, I'm sure people looking at Martinelli coming in and going, well, the Brazilian link and all that, and I did that a little bit, but I think Martinelli is more of a Mislintat thing than possibly an Edu one. But let's see, guys. Let's see what happens. Jury's out for me at the minute, but hopefully he comes in and does a brilliant job. And you know, this talk that Raul gave about forward planning and like I just raised on the last question about outsmarting the market, that's where I will be looking at Edu next window, and I won't accept in the next window what's happening in this one, whereas as soon as that window opens, I want us to be signing players and getting people out, none of this last minute shit, it just starts to smack of desperation. No, even if it isn't desperate, it starts to feel like it the later and later it gets in the window, and you've got to look at when Raul's telling you it's a year-long thing about recruitment, and then it's getting down to the last 2 weeks of the window, and you're going, well, these two things don't add up, mate. We can't be negotiating over a player for 345 days, and it gets down to the last 20, and we're doing a deal. It doesn't add up for me, as I'm sure it won't for most. But we'll have to see, guys. We'll have to see. Next one, youth promotion. What's the difference between Eddie and Willett being in this squad this year compared to last year, and is it exciting? Well, I think last year, obviously, these guys were sort of masquerading as first team players, but still officially under 23 players, where this now is official that the first teamers, and I think they're above now playing in the under 23s. They're too good to be playing in the under 23s. They're going to learn nothing more from playing in it. So yeah, I do think it's really exciting, and this leans to me towards this look for internal solutions to problems within the squad before we look outwards, and that's how I sort of looked. Nelson obviously was away last year, he's come back. Eddie and Willock were part of the squad sort of, but bit parts of it last year. I can see all these guys getting 10, 20 plus appearances this year, definitely, as the squad stands at the minute. And I looked at that and sort of this internal solution to problems gone out. So, like I've kept referencing to, with Ospina going, and Emmy was already ready to step in and more than able a debutant to keeping Leno under a good amount of pressure. And then I sort of looked at, so Ospina when Emmy stepped in, and then you look at sort of Rambo and Welbs going, and then I sort of looked at who are these guys their replacements rather than external replacements, and I thought they probably are. And the way I looked at it, you might think I've gone off on one here like a bit of a mentalist, but I looked at it and I thought Eddie for me is Eddie for me is our Welbs replacement. I think Iwobi's going to get shifted centrally, and Iwobi and Willock will be our Ramsey replacement. And then I think Nelson will be our Iwobi replacement on the wing. That's the way I've been looking at it. And a lot of people saw Welbs as a good squad player, as you guys like to call it, which I totally disagree with. I think he's the epitome of a terrible squad player. Big wages, not good enough for the first team, never will be. We're paying him big wages to do that. So that's, to me, is the worst type of squad player. These guys, they're going to keep building value in them as players, and we will find out quickly whether they're up to it or not, and if they're not, we can get decent fees for them because they've cost us nothing coming through the academy. This is what we've got to start utilising to build up the fact that, people keep saying spend some fucking money. Well, this is the only way we're going to do it, through a self-sustaining model, is by making good money selling players, and the only way to do that is the ones you get for nominal fees or for free, is turning them into players that are worth 20, 30 million plus. Look at the way PSG have just done it. Who was it they got rid of? Diaby, Weah, and Nkunku. And they brought in sort of 50 million euros, 60 million euros for the free. And they cost them nothing. That's what we could do. Whether you think Eddie, Willock, and Nelson are up to it, well, if we give them all 20 plus games a year this year, and we don't think they're up to our standard, that still will be good enough for 80% of the teams out there in the world, and they'll all go from being maybe worth 5 to 10 million now to 20 to 30 million at the end of the season. So there's a lot of use in it for me. And going back to the sort of Welbs as a squad player, and Rambo, a lot of you will say, well, Rambo's a really influential player in the squad. Not for me, he wasn't. It's a bit of a pointless position that he played. Not particularly good in defence. Didn't create an absolute ton going forward either. So I sort of looked at the numbers from them guys from last year. Rambo, 35 appearances, 5 goals, 6 assists. Welbs, 12 appearances, 3 goals, 1 assist. That's nearly 50 appearances between the two, and they came up with 8 goals and 7 assists. Now between Nelson Eddie and Willock, is it unreasonable to expect between those three this year they could cover that number? Not for me. I would expect that. I would expect 5 goals from Eddie this year, maybe an assist. I would expect maybe a couple of goals from Reece and sort of 5+ assists. Willock maybe a couple of goals and a couple of assists. So this brought me into the next question that somebody said about expectations for next season. What's reasonable to expect? Well, if you just look at the basis of where our squad is now and who's left, our squad is weaker from last year and we finished 5th. So if you just look at it very rudimentarily, can we reasonably expect to finish 5th this year? No, not for me, no. I think that'd be a bonus if we finish 5th, since our squad's weaker than last year. But then you look at who's left and what's made it weaker, and how hard are they to replace? Well, for me, not that hard. I've said that for years. I think we could have easily replaced Ramsey. I don't think he's that big of a player for us. He was just a big player in a time when we had shite. Never a club legend for me, not in a million years. And I don't see him pulling up many trees in Italy either. Welb's the same. He's just a bit of a nothing for me. You guys know I've never been a fan of him, and I think it was a banter signing that we got him. Just through the amount of shit that I got through friends at United fans that absolutely fucking fell over laughing when we paid for him. And he didn't improve since he came here. He's just the same player United sold us, just a bang average player. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? But like I say, the thing is with these lads, that number that they've got to cover from who's left isn't massive. And if they are sort of capable of delivering that number, we've not really lost out, but we gain a lot, that these lads have a lot more room to keep improving, whereas Ramsey for me is at his ceiling, Welbs was at his ceiling. There's a lot of other players in our squad for me that have peaked and they're at their plateau. So there's a lot to be gained from it as well, so I'm all for it. But I think reasonably, if this is the way we go, you've got to just look at landing Europa League and possibly getting top 4 next year. I don't think you can expect those things, I really don't. Next one, based on this sort of stuff. What are your thoughts on do you think Emery trusts our youth based on last season? Doesn't look to me like he does. I've seen a lot of people say this about he cocked up last year and he didn't really utilise our youth. And the question I kept asking people was, when did you expect him to do that? The guy's on a 2-year contract with his targets being get back in top 4. And if you look at the group stage of the Europa last year, we made a bit of a tits of it, even with senior sides, and some shock results. So for you guys that think he should have used them more last year, what would have happened to him? Because a lot of you think he was underwhelming anyway. Only getting, some of you say only getting, 1 point off top 4 and losing out in the Europa League final. I think he did a good job. But a lot of you guys want him out anyway. So if he'd have played, like an under-23 side in the group games of the Europa, early rounds of the Carabao, and got knocked out of both, taking that chance, he wouldn't still be at the club, would he? He wouldn't still be in a job. And a lot of you would have lost your shit. So he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. The only way he could have won if those lads had played out of the skin. But that was a big ask, so I can't blame him for not trusting. I don't think he was in a position to take chances last year, I don't. And I'm not sure he's in one either, but with the likes of Ramsey going, being out of contract, and Welbs and all the rest of it, his hand is more forced this year to play him. We'd have seen more whether he trusts them or not if we'd have had a big budget this year and he's got the ability to go in and replace those guys from external sources. So I'm not sure if he trusts them, but I do personally believe that he will give these guys a chance. I think, we were saying there with Nelson, Willock and Eddie stepping up, I do think he'll give them games. I don't think he's putting them in there just to sit on the bench and come on for 10 minutes at the end of matches, because I think these lads fancy themselves more than that. I don't think he'll get away with it. Because if he does do that with a lot of these young lads, I think they'll all leave, and then we're even in an even weaker position than we are now, and that's, for a lot, pretty unimaginable at the moment. So it's a pretty tricky one. We're going to have to just suck it and see, aren't we, with this one again. I really want him to give him a chance, and I'd like to see it, definitely, especially in the Europa and early rounds of Carabao and FA Cup and all the rest of it, because I do personally believe some of our youth players are good enough, so it's going to be interesting to see. our pre-season tour of the USA is about to begin. What are the chances of another signing joining up? 0 for me, guys. I've said it to somebody, a chum on Twitter this morning. I don't think you can expect to see somebody come in before we set off for America. Just being realistic, I think maybe we're going to be looking at outs rather than ins now. In the meantime, I'm not so sure on that one, guys. But no, I don't see somebody coming in. And with the lack of signings, and then I looked at players, like Iwobi's still away, Torreira I'm sure is still on holiday, and maybe xhakas still on holiday. Some that have been playing in international stuff throughout the summer. It's not great that we haven't got signings in, but the one thing it will do is it means we'll see some of these youth lads in fairly tough fixtures in this pre-season stuff. So it's a chance for them to impress. Your Beiliks, your Chambers, your Eddies, your Mavropanos, your Beiliks, your Emi Martinez. It's a chance for all these sort of squad fluffers to, a bit like Guendouzi did last year, to step in and go, I'm up for this, I'm ready. Gaffer, you can put some faith in me. So although it's a bit of a downside that there's not more signings and more players haven't left, at least this is going to give us a chance to see some of the youth players against decent composition, to see if they have got it in them, and I'm hoping they do, and I do believe they will. And I sort of looked at these fixtures in this pre-season stuff, and when it's a dangerous game we're playing, picking such tough opponents for pre-season, because it's not out of the realms of believability that we could get an absolute tonking in a lot of these pre-season games. The atmosphere drops, and we head into the season pretty distraught. And then I looked at and I thought, why have we picked such big sides to play in Champions League? And then I thought it might actually be a pretty shrewd move on the club's behalf, because unlike previous seasons where you sort of get time to bring players in and then you can sort of spend the first month of the transfer window in the season adjusting and looking at what you've got and who you should maybe go out on loan and who you need to bring in and identifying problems and solutions, we won't have that benefit this year because the window will have shut before we play Newcastle. So I think the only way to find out if some of them are going to be up to it before it's too late for us to rectify the situation is to pick decent opposition in pre-season. So that's my belief, is why we've gone for the the Barcelonas, the Lyons, and the rest of it. So that's where I stand on that one. So I think it's going to be a good test. So that's my thoughts on that one, guys. Beilik, some rumblings this morning that it doesn't look like he's going to be part of the squad. What do you think? Stunned to be honest. I'll be very surprised if he's not part of the squad next year. I can't say shocked because of his comments about if I'm not part of the setup I'll be gone, and I don't blame him for that. I blame the club. I'm not going to stand in the way of a player that thinks he's better than us and what he's getting, and I agree with him. So I'm not going to slam him for that. He does deserve better. It was similar to my comments on Emi Martinez last year, is that if we're going to keep sitting him behind two deadbeats in Cech and Ospina, I want him to go for his own sake. He's better than that. I want him to go and play for another club where he's respected and appreciated. So I do feel a bit the same with Beilik, because he's a versatile player and it's something we don't have many of. When I was saying it before about squad players and people saying like, well, this is a good squad player and he's my idea, the epitome of a squad player, I think of somebody who's not on particularly big wages. I sort of look at, just to give you some examples, sort of James Milner's, Dirk Kuyt's, John O'Shea's, Sunji Park, those type of players that can play loads of positions, don't ever get up your arse about being a first teamer every week, and out, they give their everything. And we don't have those sort of players, and I feel Beilik's one of them. This is very similar to my stuff about Chambers. It's very much the same for me in that, he might not want to play centre-back and right-back, but he can. You look last year, Xhaka and Nacho at centre-back, how embarrassing. At least we've got players in these guys that can play centre defensive mid or centre-back, whichever way you look at it. You guys know that I see Beilik as a centre-back now, and I see Chambers as a centre defensive mid, and I wouldn't go away from that. But maybe you could use both in both positions. Chambers centre defensive mid, centre back, right back. You can play him in all of those. Beilik centre back or centre defensive mid. So there's options there. So get the idea of getting rid of either of these two guys blows my mind, to be honest. So yeah, I do find it. Although I'm not shocked, You know, and like I say with Chambers, the amount of people that say, well, we could probably get 20 million for him, so we've got to get rid. We could probably get 10 million for El Neni, and that other 10 million difference between the two is different. And Callum Chambers is a footload better than Mohamed El Neni, and a much more versatile player on less wages. So I only see reasons to keep Callum Chambers. I can't see one to get rid of him. I really can't. So it boggles my mind that people would get rid of him. I just think they're desperate and they don't really see any other players with any saleable value. But they tell me these players are good players, so it doesn't add up for me. You know, like I say, the old xhaka. You know, people tell me he's good, but we probably can't get 30 million for him, so it's not that good. You know, and I wouldn't pay more than 20 million for the guy, not at all. So that's that one. Hector's hair, and now Unai's new teeth. What do you think's next in the personal upgrade department? For me, if somebody was going to get some sort of surgery, for me it'd probably have to be Xhaka to get a neck reduction, because he just seems to have a really weird long neck. So that's what I'd probably go with next. But yeah, we're going up in the world, aren't we? I was thinking, you know, not that it really is anything to do with football, but how many players turn up at Arsenal looking $1 million and leave looking like a bag of shit? You know, it tends to be the other way around. You know, I sort of chuckle about it, and I think, you know, is that a bit of a problem at the club that we're a bit too, you know, like these, you know, millennials or whatever, you know, Generation Z kids now, and, you know, lads spend 2 hours in the morning moisturising and threading eyebrows and all that. You know, I'm sure I'm like most blokes like me, you know, a bar of cousins, and you give yourself a wash and you sort of go like that in the morning with your hair, and you know, you brush your teeth and you're out the door. You know, manscaping, it's sort of, I'm more caveman than that, more lumberjack style. I'm old school. But you know, this sort of thing, a bit, I don't know, I'm probably thinking into it a bit much, but I'm not keen on it that people, you know, whatever makes you happy at the end of the day, but I would much rather players were spending time training than hairdos, lines in eyebrows, lines in the fade, and tattoos and all that shit. But it doesn't really matter now, I doubt it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes next. I'd love to your guys' suggestions of some sort of cosmetic surgery for the next person in line. And I did think about Unai with his teeth, and I thought, I wonder if he thought, right, his comments in that advert about go brush your teeth or whatever, they were sort of aimed directly at him, and he took it a bit to heart. I don't know, but just seems a bit odd that Righty said that, and Unai's got a new set of pearly whites, so God knows. But yeah, what's next for me? It'd be a Xhaka neck reduction, definitely. Or, you know, if I was going to be really cruel, just a Xhaka reduction. Yeah, you know, a club-based colostomy. You know, and suck the shit out, which would hopefully, you know, the little lumps of poo that go down the tube would be Mustafi, Xhaka and Mickey for me. 3 little brown nuggets floating down that brown water tube, that'd be for me. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Funnily enough, there's a good link here. Si, what is the most important business, in your personal opinion, we should do this window? I've seen a lot of these, if you had a choice, 3 players out, 3 player in sort of poll things, and people answering them. And what makes me laugh is when people say, which 3 players would you get out, and people sort of go, Ospina, El Neni, Jenkinson. And I think, how detrimental is it to the future of the club to get rid of those 3? It's not. They're the worst 3 players I would see as influence. They're not first teamers, they're not on massive wages, but they wouldn't command a big fee when we sold them. So why would you rush to get those guys out? I look at it more realistically and I go, who's causing us damage? Who's important in the first team that shouldn't be? Who's on more wages than they should be? Who could probably command a decent fee? And the 3 names that come straight up for me, Mustafi, Xhaka and Mickey. You know, I think if we got rid of those 3, or even just Mustafi and Xhaka for me, you know, if we could sort of get Hermoso, Sangare and you know, a Ziyech or whoever the winger is you want, not Zaha because he's too expensive, but you know, one of these wingers that was sort of knocking around the 20 to 40 million bracket, would be 1,000 times stronger side for me. And that's what scares me and why I'd get rid of these guys quick, because you know, it's like I say when people keep telling me, You know, these guys are influential to our first team. Mustafi is a first team centre back, which is terrifying. Xhaka is our midfield maestro, our quarterback player, you know, and all our play is dictated by him and the tempo. And then people can't correlate the fact that that's what goes through him and why I think he's shit and why the football we play is absolutely dead, slow, boring, you know, crap football. Because of him, because we play everything through this guy, you know, it comes from the centre back, you know, possibly Mustafi, can't play a pass, so he just passes it short to Xhaka. That's then where we need a box-to-box tackling mid that can pick the ball up, look for a pass. If it's not on, start driving with it. He is not capable. That's why he gets the ball, takes a couple of touches and sees if he can spray a pass, because he's not got the ability to do fucking anything else. And it amazes me that people still can't see that and realise that he is shit and our football is shit, and he's a big part of why we play, and that's why our football is shit, because of this guy. And like I keep saying, if our midfield three next year is Torreira, Ozil and Xhaka, we are fucked. We are absolutely fucked, guys. And I'm not over-exaggerating. I don't care what centre-backs, left-backs, right-backs, strikers, wingers we bring in. We will still get walked through in the middle of the park, leaving our defence exposed, not giving enough to support to our front line, and we will get fucking trounced by average teams. And that's just still where I stand on it. So that's my biggest issue. And yeah, you know, I'm sure people will say, well, where's Ozil in that list? The thing for me is, Ozil's been a world-class player. None of the other three have, and none of the other three ever will be. So Mesut, for me, although he's on the biggest money, probably as a commercial entity, brings in the most, so you can offset that. And also, he's been a world-class player, so if he could even just slightly recapture that form, he brings more to the party than these divs. So, although I would get rid of him, he's not the most important for me to get rid of. And I would be, in order of out the door, if I could, Mustafi, closely followed by Xhaka, closely followed by Mickey, closely followed by Mesut. That's the way I'd be going. And I do think if we could just shift those four and bring in four replacements, all of a sudden I'd go from pretty disappointed and down about our future prospects to, fuck me, we look like a live club again with chances. That's just my opinion, guys. And I'm sure probably a lot of you have very different views on that, but that's what the world's all about, guys. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Next one. Has the league now become a top 8 this season? It's something I've been looking at quite a bit over the last few days. I think there is an 8, but I think there's a top 2 and then a next 8, which is us, Spurs, Chelsea, United, Wolves, Everton, West Ham, Leicester. I think that's our competition next year. We can't be looking at City and Liverpool at the minute. We can't. It's going to take more than this window for us to even, unless the youth players all turn out to be world class, we're not going to reach those guys this year. That's something we've got to aim for next year and the season after. So this season, our goal has to be just finishing 4th, realistically. 3rd, great, but it makes no difference between 3rd and 4th apart from a few quid for the Premier League standings. So 4th for me. Is that realistic? Probably not the way things stand at the minute. Is it achievable? Quite possibly. But you know, this is again the thing that I looked at when I was talking about my midfield 3 and what we've got. And then you look at the other those 8 teams that I just mentioned, midfield 3. Ours is the worst. Ours is the worst. It's the most dead midfield 3 out of all of them clubs. Some of you will go bollocks, whatever. Go and look. And then look at, I drew up a little chart of all the starting first 3s of all those teams and which one I'd swap ours for. There's none. Sorry, all of them. I would swap our midfield 3 for all of those. Torreira for me is the only one who brings something to the party. And until Mesut, you know, pulls his finger out and decides he cares again and wants to play more than one game a month and you know, turn off his PS4 and stop playing Fortnite. Our midfield's dead to me. Xhaka is a dead footballer for me, and that's a big part of why we play shit football, because it all goes through him. So yeah, you look at it and you go, you know, I just looked at sort of Leicester, and you look at, you know, Maddison and Didi and now Tielemans. You know, fucking, That's what I aspire our midfield three. You know, I don't usually look at other clubs and get bitter or jealous or envious, but I looked at their midfielder three and I thought that's what I dream for us to have in a couple of years' time. And I thought, how embarrassing is that? You know, that's how far down the food chain we've dropped, you know, over the last few years. You know, the last few years of Wenger and Gazidis' reign of terror. It's not good. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, drawing comparisons and saying, doing these pointless comparisons, saying, well, you know, we were fucking fed a lie when we left the Emirates, when we moved to the Emirates and told we could be competing with the big teams and all that. We should have been, but we've made a few mistakes that have not allowed us to do that. Sitting on a big cash reserve and not spending it at the right time, and it becoming irrelevant. And then, you know, not future planning, and we've just been going year to year, and there's been no contingency plan. We're in a shit shape for it. And, you know, people saying, well, Spurs, you know, as I referenced in one of the last videos, Spurs, well, they've just built a new ground that's cost twice as much and they're buying 65 million players. Yeah, 10 years later, guys, the game has moved on. Commercial revenue. So, you know, they're not paying their repayment yet on their stadium, and they'll be paying theirs for twice longer because they've paid double what that ground is worth. They've built a £400 million ground that's cost them $1 billion. They're going to feel the force of it, guys, just not instantly. You know, it wasn't instant for us either. You know, as I said, I don't want to go on about it, but, you know, they're going to have to look at selling some of their, you know, if they want to get back to a position where they can spend money fairly frivolously, they're going to have to look to, you know, their big players, their big assets, you know, your Kanes, your Allies and that, Sons, and maybe go, well, you know, we could get rid of two of these guys and bring in 250 million. That's a quarter of the stadium. It's a tricky one, but drawing these comparisons, you know, somebody yesterday saying, fucking hell, I can't believe it, Leicester have just paid 40 million for Tielemans. Well, how can you compare us to Leicester? Is their wage bill the same as ours? No. Is all their revenues, are they the same as ours? Are their restrictions they've got to work in the same as ours? Nope. You know, people say, well, they're not in European football, they don't have a fucking big ground, they don't have this, they don't have that. Yeah, but these other things, you know, you look, well, they won the Premier League more recent than us, so they will have got a lot more revenue that season than we did, a lot more. You know, and then stuff off the back of that promotion-wise. You know, you look, they've got saleable assets, you know. Harry Maguire, they might get 60 to 80 million for. Chilwell, 40 to 60 million. Maddison, 40 to 60 million. And Didi, 40 to 60 million. Now Tielemans, 40 to 60 million. How many of them have we got? None. None. You know, you look at it, we've got maybe a couple of players we could. Maybe Guendouzi could get 30, 40 mil for. Torreira, I'd expect to get 50 or 60 mil for. If we sold Leno right now, I'd like to get 40 million for him. And then after that, you're looking at Laka and Alba. And, you know, we can't get rid of them, so that's the issue, guys. You've got to start looking at this shit sensibly rather than just, no, but they've got fucking that, you know. It makes me laugh. You're so irrational, so many of you. It makes me piss me pants. It's just comical. Si, we're having no Champions League. How badly do you think that affects us? Massively, of course it does. You know, we should be coping now without it because we've not had it now for this is, you know, 3 years we've not had it for. So we've got to accept we're a Europa League club and act like a Europa League club rather than a Champions League club. And that was a big issue of mine with what Even and Arsene were doing in the final few years, is they were taking, because we were so relentless at constantly finishing top four and landing Champions League, they started to take it for granted, and then when it didn't happen and we dropped out, they had no plan for getting us back in. And you look at our signings, I'm not saying they were desperate, but they were quick fixes who can make a massive impact straight away. You know, Aubameyang, Lacazette, that's what they were doing, and they were reaching, and I'm not saying they weren't good signings, but they were desperate ones. For an instant impact rather than planning for the future. And, you know, well, maybe next year we won't get back in, but, you know, we can spend the 60 million we'll spend on Aubameyang on 10 players at 6 million, and in 2 years' time, you know, we can buy 10 Guendouzis, you know, 10 Guendouzis and Martinellis, and in 2 seasons' time, we can then actually maybe have a squad that can win the Champions League. They weren't doing that. They were limping year to year, like I always say, putting plasters on broken limbs, and it's left us in a shit state we're in now. You know, and this, you know, they weren't forward planning. They were signing players based on us being a Champions League club, and now we've got people on Champions League wages, and we're a Europa League side. You know, and this is a big part of the wages and the structuring, and, you know, they didn't have the foresight. You know, they were so sure that we would just keep landing as a given Champions League. You know, why have none of these players got clauses in their contract that if we drop out of the Champions League, their wages drop by 20%? Doesn't seem that that's the case, does it? And you know, that's something to be angry about. You know, rather than all this other shit your mind's getting filled with. You know, that's the sort of thing that pisses me off. Because a lot of you guys know, you know, I like to think in 2025 rather than in 2019. Because I've just always been that sort of guy. I'm always thinking much further down the line. You know, I drive a car like that. I don't look at the car in front of me. I'm looking at the 1-6 cars up the road. So that's that naivety and the blinkered thinking has put us in the mess we're in. You know, people saying, well, you know, Champions League is now really influential and we need that revenue. You know, we can't survive without it. Well, we are surviving without it because we've not been a Champions League club for 3 years. So using Champions League predictions for stuff doesn't wash with me. We need to be basing it on we're a Europa League side and we'll be a Europa League side next year. But if we manage to get Champions League, bonus. Then we'll have extra resources and all the rest of it. But until then, yeah, no Champions League is definitely affecting us. But I think the non-planning for not getting Champions League has affected us more than actually not being in it. You know, there was no contingency plan. Next one, we're getting into the end of the questions now. Raul's interview and his comment about
We have a very good plan in place that we are going to execute.
or whatever he said. Does it seem like he's actually got one? It's a tricky one for me, guys. I'm feeling like I've got quite a lot of egg on my face at the minute because I sort of sat there watching that interview like the Churchill dog going, oh yeah, oh yes, oh yes, just nodding and agreeing with everything he said. And I bought what he was selling in that interview. Everything he said, I was like, yes, this is what I've wanted to hear for ages. I really identify with this sort of thing. This is right up my street. Bang! Thank God we've got somebody in. Then I'm sort of weighing it up now, and we're sort of, you know, nearly a couple of months into, you know, the off season, and it doesn't really, you know, evidence seems to suggest we don't really have a plan, do we? We seem a bit rudderless still, and that's another concern for me. And I'll be very disappointed with Raul's track record and where he's come from and his CV. If he turns out to be a bullshitter and a yes man, I'd be really disappointed. I'd like to think that, you know, he's got targets identified to help the club get back where it should be, and if they're not happening, he goes, well, either they happen or I fuck off. And I'd like to see a lot more of that from a lot of people in the club in important positions where they put pressure on Stan. That, you know, I'm not here to be mugged off, mate. I know you can say, well, they're on big wages and why would they leave? Your own self-respect, that's why you would leave. I'm sick of people saying that as an excuse. You know, if that's your excuse, then we should just be getting rid of all these guys if they haven't got this self-respect and esteem. You know, like the players. You know, and I said about Ozil and the likes, and, you know, tell them either you fuck off and find yourself a club or you play under 23s. And then if they choose to stay and take a wage and play in the under 23s, well, they just prove to us then that they're not good enough and all our thoughts about them are on the money. So it's an odd one for me. I'm going to reserve judgment till the end of the window, like, you know, any sane fan should. Is it happening fast enough? No. You know, outs and ins, definitely not. Would he have liked them all before pre-season and to see the squad we're going to hit the, you know, the outs that we want, the ins that we want, and the squad going into next year that we want, all on pre-season together, gelling? Yes. Does the world work like that? Is it perfect? No. So we're just in that position. And we're just going to have to, you know, another one, we're going to have to suck it and see if he's a man of his word. And, you know, for me, he gets this window and he's another one he'd get next window. And then after that, I've got to start questioning the bloke, I really do. You know, what the fuck is
What is your plan, Raul? What are you planning on doing?
So we'll have to see. Just the last one. Somebody asked me about the under-23 games, what did I make of it, did I watch it? I wanted to go, but after me John back from France, I just wanted to get home. I didn't fancy stopping there, as you know, watching that for an hour and a half and then you know, still a 4.5 hour drive home. But I did watch it at home. Didn't particularly enjoy the game. I watched quite a lot of the youth stuff, so I didn't learn a ton. Who was impressive, who wasn't, was just the question. Tough to pick people who were impressive, to be honest. I'm sure most people will say John Jules straight off the bat. He didn't impress me more than he has done already. John Jules and Balogun for me, after Eddie, are the two strikers that I think could possibly be internal solutions to when Laka and Oba go, definitely. Swanson at right back for me was the most impressive. First half, I thought he was the only person that didn't wilt like a fucking dandelion in a breeze. For me, he was the only one that looked not out of his depth and that was paddling, and not treading water. A lot of them first 20 minutes felt the force of, like I always say, when you think you're hard and you leave high school, I'll batter anyone, I'm fucking 10 men, and then you mouth off in a pub and you get a dig off a grown man and you go, fuck, that hurt more than any other punch I've ever took in my life off the kids at school. And that seemed a bit like this. My first thoughts after the first 25 minutes was, shit, this is teenagers versus grown-ass, hairy-ass men. And there were so many of them that were just completely out of their depth. And clearly, I mean, the average age, I think, of the squad that we put out in the lineup was just under 18 years old. So, make of that what you will and excuse them. I will, obviously. And a lot of them, their place at the moment is under 23s football or under 21s, whatever, under 18s. But Medley for me was he was somebody I was hoping would be in and around the squad last year. God, he looked all over the fucking place, and he's 19. You look at, we're signing Saliba a year younger, or whatever it works out with their birthdays. I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's probably around a year. One's worth 30 million euros, and what could we get for Medley? Probably nothing, or a couple of million. And this is the level we need these guys to be at, and that's what disappointed me for him. I wanted him to look, he's a fucking big kid, he's like 6'6" or whatever he is. I really wanted him to look, have some prowess about him and look like a leader of boys, and he didn't. He just looked like a boy with the rest of them, and he was all over the shop, and that really upset me a little bit, because he is one I've got high hopes for. But yeah, the obvious with John Jules, he looked lively in the game. It was a real Jekyll and Hyde performance. First half, we were shit all over the place. Apart from Swanson, he was left two against one or down his side, and he's positional, his work rate. I thought if he can get played well for the under 23s next season, then at Christmas they look to loan him out to a League One side, lower end Championship side. He might be our backup to Bellerin for the season after. I wouldn't mind seeing that, going off what I've seen of him. And John Gills, maybe he get the similar comments apply. Under 23s for 6 months this season, and then get him out there on loan at a League One club and see if he can cut the mustard. But they were the two most impressive for me that stood out by a mile. And yeah, we were shit first half, much better second half. But it's tricky. It's the first game of pre-season, boys v men. And we changed the lineup. It's practically two separate 11s, so not much cohesion. And it told in the football. So that's that one. That's questions over, guys. Sorry, it just got a bit boring at the end there. Transfer bullshit. Let's crack on with it. The curious case of Kieran Tierney. Where's he gone? The invisible man. It's a strange one, guys. People were saying it was pretty much done. It's an odd one because he's a Celtic lad. All of his family are going to be Celtic. All of his mates are probably going to be diehard Celtic fans. So I don't think he's going to push his way out at all. The only way I see him coming is if Celtic say, mate, we appreciate your service, but we've accepted an offer for you. Up to you if you go or not. And then I think the proposition of playing for us in the Prem, a big club, he'll come. But he's not someone that's going to force his way out. And I looked at it more and I thought, I think there is a deal to be done between 20 and 25 million. I don't disagree with that at all, and I think that's the number it'll happen on. Whether we add in a player or as well Jenkinson, or like it was said, loaning Otti Tutu or someone like that. But I do think a lot of it now comes down to, people saying Napoli are interested. I don't buy that for 1 minute. I don't. I think that's maybe them trying to speed us up. And I think what we're doing is quite clever, is that there isn't anybody particularly knocking their door down for him. Nobody else has officially bid for him. So I think we're going, we know what number, 22.5 million plus Jenkinson we can wrap this up for. So what we've got to do now is not end up with 3 senior left backs for next season. Because we can't just go and bring Tierney in, and then how do you excuse, we're all moaning about no room in the wage bill, no money for signings. Well, how do you excuse the fact then we'd have 3 senior left backs? Nacho, I told you guys at Christmas he'd given an extension, not this shit last week, that's old news. So he's obviously the one we're keeping. So that says to me, we're going to have to try and look for a suitor for Kolasinac and get him gone before we actually press the button on Turner. And I think that's what's held it up. That's just my personal opinion, make of it what you will. But that's where I stand on it. I think for a lot of signings now for us, there'll have to be one out before one comes in. The old unicorn, a lot of you have been chasing, Wilf Zaha. It's gone a little bit quiet this week, thank God. He's not somebody I want to see at the club at all. He's really not. Doesn't particularly excite me. You know, and he's another one where people keep saying, well, he's better than what we've got. I don't want better than what we've got. I want the best we can get. I keep saying this, and he isn't the best we can get. He's at an age. Is he going to improve? No. The fee, the ridiculous fee that we could pay for him. Would we ever get that money back? No. It kills. It sticks it pin in my arse that if we went and paid 80 million for him, 20 of it goes to United. Fuck that. Fuck yeah. No. So that's what was the sort of final nail in the coffin for me of why I wouldn't want him. His attitude stinks. I don't think he'd be a. If you look at his numbers, he's not a massive upgrade on Iwobi, and most of you think Iwobi's shit. So, he's got slightly better numbers than Iwobi. Do I think his numbers would improve in RT? Yes. Do I think he'd get 15 goals and assists in a season? No. He's another bit of a one-trick pony for me. I just don't rate him. I just really don't. I don't see what other people are seeing. And it makes me laugh that the same people are saying just fucking sign him are the same people that complain we've got no money. But you'd go and bin 60 to 80 million on Wilf Zaha, and what a lot of you seem to forget is you want a winger, but it's not what we need. It's way down the pecking order in what we need. Goals weren't a problem last year, and I don't think there'll be a problem this year. It's defence. It's stopping letting goals in. The 50 odd goals that we can see. That's the fucking problem. Not scoring them. As long as we've got Ober and Lacquer, I don't think we'll struggle for goals, even with zero service. But if we keep playing Mustafi and fucking Koscielny at centre back, we're fucked. I don't care who we get as wingers. It's not going to make a difference. So I hope this one goes quiet and just dies on its arse and he stays at Palace, or somebody else comes and offers that silly money. But I don't want us to. I'd pay 40 million for him, and weighing everything up, and that'd be it for me. And that's why I didn't have a problem with our bid, because it's exactly where I'd be bidding for him. I'd have probably said, we'll give you 30 million, and you can have a couple of youth players on loan, and you can have El Neni and fucking Mustafi. That'd have been it for me. So like I say, he's got another couple of years. He's 29. You're not going to get good money for him. He's never had a breakout season in his entire career, and he's had chances. People will say he's at Palace, so it's a bit unfair. Well, Ryan Fraser was at Bournemouth, and he produced better numbers, and I don't want him either. So it's a tricky one. But anyway, hopefully Zaha disappears. The ethnic SpongeBob. I hope he disappears and farts off. A new one today, Lamina. Mario Lamina from Southampton. Apparently they're just happy to let him go for sort of 18 million. He's the sort of player I want, a tackling box to box, ideal fit for what we want. But then I can't be a hypocrite, because I probably say he's just an improvement on what we've got. He probably isn't somebody who I think's got massive improvement of him, or could be as good as we could possibly get. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. So yeah, I like the rumour. No, I'm not so sure. But I'd swap him instantly for Xhaka. No two ways about it. And then just a couple of player out ones, guys. Takuma Asano. What a wonderful phrase. Takuma Asano is here for the rest of his days. Which it seems we just can't get rid of him. He's like a boil on our ass. Takuma Asano. Yeah, it's a real strange one that we've loaned him out again. Somebody asked me about it this morning, going, why haven't we just sold him? He's never going to play for the club. He's not ever doing it where he's going. Why aren't we just getting rid of him? And I had to think about it, try and use a bit of logic, and I thought, all I could actually come up with, and it was a real reach, is the fan base in Japan and Asia, and promoting us out there. And I'm not sure, like I say, I think that's a bit of a reach, because he's not even ever wearing an Arsenal shirt, so that's all I could come up with. Rick leaves me clueless, this one, I don't know. But I just thought he wouldn't bring in big money. If someone else is just paying his wages, he hasn't got a work permit to play for us, so fuck it. So yeah, if he goes off to Partizan Belgrade on loan, who cares? El Neni, last one, 7 million to Bordeaux. you know, I'm probably sure it's less than what a lot of you'd like to get or hope for El Neni. But I look at it realistically. I think what's the best we would ever get for El Neni, and I think 15 mil. You know, when you look at his exposure last year, of who would be looking at him and going, this guy's worth 20 million based on his recent season. Played 5 times, and he didn't play well in those games. So his total ceiling value for me is 15 million. He played 5 games last year, half at 7.5 million, 7 million rumour. Just let him go for it. Let him go. Biggest thing for me about him going, or I'd rather lose 3 million if we could get possibly 10 for him, just to get the number 4 shirt back and give it somebody worthy, because that just makes me vomit, and you know, I bring up a little bit of sick to the back of my throat every time I think about him in that number 4 shirt. So that's it, right, that's it, end off guys, I'm going, we've hit the hour mark, so I've hit my quota for the day. Hope you've enjoyed. If you've stayed with me to the end, God bless you. And like I say, keep pressing the like button, guys. Keep back bringing your questions in, any comments on how to improve things. Keep subscribing. Keep telling your friends to get involved and help me. And let's keep growing this thing and getting good Arsenal content out there for the fans, by the fans. You know, we'll steal AFTV's motto, because they don't do that. It's just all spiel. So yeah, come on guys, help me out. Have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. Si signing out. Take it easy, peeps.